with regard to this shooting in Las Vegas, Brad and I, Jose, we've been following this over the weekend. This morning there was a press conference, Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. And when I was looking around on the different channels, you would think that another mass shooting that has a rather high profile and something that has been used way too much politically in the past would be something that in particular the cable channels would want to be a part of. CNN had live coverage of it. Fox News chose not to cover the press conference live, but decided that they would continue to use the Bo Bergdahl Taliban prisoner exchange as a means to undermine President Obama. Now, if you are just a Fox bot or an MSNBC bot, chances are you're not getting the news. Chances are you're not understanding what's happening. And if you do happen to see the, quote, news that's coming from them, you're getting what it is they want you to believe the news to be, as opposed to what the news really is. It's an absolute disgusting way for people in cable television to find a way to pander to their ideologically aligned mental midgets so that they can continue to foster and promote and advance whatever it is that they think is needed to save this country from whoever it is that they think is trying to tear it down. The story is what the story is. The news is what the news is. The data is what the data is. It is what it is. But unfortunately, as we go further along in this insanely divided, carved up, hyper-political environment, people will choose to take a tragic event that took place here in Las Vegas over the weekend and figure out a way that it fits into what it is that they're trying to promote, or keep it out of what it is that they're trying to promote because it's not convenient to the argument. MSNBC, tried and true, the network of the beta broads and the bitchy broads and the beta boys. First instinct in a tragedy like this, where two officers were shot point blank at a pizzeria in Las Vegas, is to immediately, boom, oh, gun control, need more gun control, need more gun control, need more gun control. They can't help themselves. But the same is said for Fox News. The people there are just flat out blind to the realities of life because they want it to be something other than what it is. It doesn't fit their agenda. Now, why wouldn't Fox cover this press conference? I mean, this is right in Fox's wheelhouse. They'll send a helicopter for a squirrel caught in a tree, but they won't cover this press conference live in Las Vegas. Why wouldn't they do it? What doesn't fit with them? What doesn't make sense to them? I'll tell you what it is. It's because of these focus group phonies on Fox News. When they take a look at what the news is, after they've jumped in blindly into stories, not knowing what the story is. Because this story in Las Vegas this weekend ties in with the Cliven Bundy standoff in Nevada of just a few months ago. Now, if you remember, Fox News, Sean Hannity in particular, was going to fly there. Mighty Mouse was going to fly to the rescue because Cliven Bundy was his man. He had Cliven Bundy on his TV show and on his radio show because Cliven Bundy is about the troops and apple pie and the Constitution and the rule of law. And I was getting heat from people, particularly in Nevada. I broadcast out of Las Vegas because I wasn't jumping all over and promoting this showdown, this standoff with Cliven Bundy and his supporters. What's wrong with you, Jerry? Don't you understand that the government's out of control? Don't you understand? You should be up there. You should be standing with them. You should jump in your pickup truck, and you should go up there with your guns, and you should make a stand. Really? That's what I should do? How about we find out what the story is before we start whipping people into a frenzy? Because that's what the Mighty Mouses on Fox News, that's what the Mighty Mouses in white, right, uptight Republican talk radio did. Until they distanced themselves from Cliven Bundy. Because Cliven Bundy proved to be the lunatic that I thought he was, but I wasn't sure. And now, because Fox was a part of whipping the crowd into a frenzy, of which these two scumbag killers were a part of, but we can't go back at Fox News and touch that story. Oh, no. We wouldn't want in any way for you to think now and remember then when we were whipping everybody into a frenzy over the story. But they were a part of it. Brad, you were right on this one. When it happened over the weekend, Brad said, I guarantee you these people, whoever they are, how many there are tied into that militia movement, that standoff with Clive and Bundy in the BLM in Nevada. And that's exactly who they were. Because the words that were used by these two scumbag killers, this is the start of a revolution. See, when you use the R word, you have to be very careful. Like when I talk on this program, I say intellectual anarchy for now. Intellectual anarchy. Think differently. What we're doing isn't working. What we're doing isn't panning out for John and Jane Q. Public. What we're doing isn't trickling down to the average, hardworking, God-fearing, tax-paying, dot the I, cross the T American. So intellectual anarchy is think of something different. Because everything we've been doing hasn't been benefiting the people that have been doing it. So we have to think differently. We have to act differently. We have to react differently. We have to go about things in a different way to get different results because the results we're getting aren't working. When we look at programming this show, when we look at stories that we put up on Epic Times, when we look at the things that we post up on Facebook, we don't do it to say, oh, this is going to get a Republican elected or this is going to get a Democrat under-elected or vice versa. No. We put it up there because it's the news. That's what we do. And we know that you're smart enough that when you're given the information that you'll know what to do with it. But in the agenda-driven, ratings-driven, at any cost media environment that we're in today, they have to be very selective in what it is they go back and cover because they have to cover their asses because of the stupidity and the blindness with which they went in and wanted you to follow. Now, that's not to say that everybody that was up there at the Clive and Bundy standoff was a whack job revolutionary. But when you whip people into a frenzy, you will bring in opportunists. There were a lot of good people that went up there for the right reasons, but there's a lot of nut jobs in this country that see those as an opportunity like it's a rallying cry, like it's a bat signal in the sky. Oh, man, it's time for me to take on the man. Because these two scumbag killers that are tied to that standoff with Clive and Bundy equate government and law enforcement with fascism and the Nazis. Now, what kind of a crowd do you think you're going to attract when you start to whip that crowd into a frenzy? You're going to get these kind of people. That's why it's important that sites like Epic Times exist. It's important that shows like this exist. Because what we decide to post up at Epic Times, what we decide to follow, what we decide to promote, what we decide to talk about on the program is not left versus right. It's right versus wrong, and it's that simple.
The Jerry Doyle Show.